So it's been really interesting. We've been talking a lot about the model factory lately. How would you kind of explain that to the world?
So I think the best way to look at the model factory is that it's an end-to-end system for orchestrating workloads. And actually, it's a very concise way of putting it, but that's kind of what we need at Poolside. If you think about all the pieces that go into building a really good foundation model, data curation, training, fine-tuning, all of these things really need to be orchestrated together, not apart. And so having a system that can schedule these things, that can introduce new assets, that's kind of the systems part of it taken care of. And it means that for someone who doesn't necessarily have a systems background, like a researcher, they don't have to worry about that stuff. They've just got to worry about how they actually express their thoughts in the code that we have, and then everything just works.
For me, the favorite thing in all this is that when we talk about the model factory, it's easy to forget how large it's become.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had a look the other day, and at this point we have 5,000 assets in there and a big model run that kind of goes end to end from ingesting data from the web all the way to like eval models. We'll use anywhere like 2,000 of those. What's an asset and why is it so important to orchestration?
So the way that I think of an asset is it's a versioned piece of data and code. So what this means is that you have some representation of what it was that you did to get to that state. So in our Dagster UI, you can just click on an asset and it will take you to the code that generated it, all of the data sets that went into it, everything you could possibly need. So it's really, the way that I like to think of it is it's a whole lineage and take of something that you've built from all of these diverse sources, all of these filtering steps, everything you've done in one very succinct representation.
Yeah, and what it means is that like every experiment is effectively one that you can trace back.
Yeah, precisely. You can rerun everything from scratch.
Walk me through a little bit of what happens when I'm a research engineer, I come in, I make a branch, what do we mean by that? I modify something, like kind of walk me through of like how we actually collaborate around the model factory.
So as we said earlier, assets are all versioned. So what this means in practice is they're tracked by our Git history. So you can go into our GitHub repository, our Git repos, and you just take an existing asset and you fork off of it. So you take what you've got, you make a new branch. Then all you've got to do is make some tweaks. Once you've made that tweak, you just open a pull request and the model factory take care of everything else. It takes it, it deploys it, it runs it, it gives you your experimental output. It does all of the coordination for you. So that's the workflow really.
What's your favorite thing about it?
About the model factory in general?
Yeah.
So for me, it's that people who haven't got that systems background can come in and run experiments without having to deal with hassle. So a great example is we have a lot of fine-tuning experiments that run.
Yeah.
If you actually want to coordinate large-scale fine-tuning, there's so much system stuff you need to get out of the way before you even start. You need to deal with dataset loading, dataset generation, checkpointing, a pre-training code base, scheduling. There's so many of these pieces that you've got to get right before you can even start. There are some people who come into Poolside who just don't have the system skills to do that. They're brilliant researchers, but they're not systems engineers. And nor should they be, because it's a completely different skill set. But if they can take these pieces, they're only limited by how quickly they can come up with new ideas. They're not limited by all of the other stuff you've just got to do to even get off the ground.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite bit.
I like it. This really shows when people are doing like exploration and sweeps. Right, when someone comes in, and it could be a synthetic data pipeline with different prompts, could be a reinforcement learning approach across 4 different RL algorithms. And I love these PRs that come in where you see someone, it's effectively a 100-line pull request that are for loop, right? And it's over a bunch of enums effectively where they're saying, I want to try these 4 different RL algorithms, I want to try these different data sets, these hyperparameters. And then they just, on Friday, and it's almost always on Friday, it seems to be, someone will kick off a sweep of like 100 or 200 small model runs. And then by the time they come back on Monday, the results are all there. They're all in our, eval and like tools. And they can kind of start their week having got this big breadth of results that they can go after.
It also acts as a really good logbook of all the things that we've tried as well, because we have so many experiments that are going at once. In a big team, it would be so easy for people to forget what's happened and then try it again in the future. And we just don't have that problem. Because you can just link someone to the experiment that you did 6 months ago where you said, hey, this didn't work. So there's no point you trying because we know it doesn't work.
Well, that's pretty much what we do on our graph dashboards, right?
Yeah.
So you say, hey, wait a second, we looked at this baseline before. Let's show it next to the other results. Let's maybe give a quick example of, this is some part of a pipeline in this model factory. We can go RL, we can go synthetic data, you pick.
So I think synthetic data is actually the best example because it's something that builds on itself. So if you think about what you need to do to generate synthetic data, you need to have a model that you can interact with and query and maybe run some conversation or whatever, and then you need to be able to store that data. So what does this mean? This means you need to deploy a checkpoint into some inference server somewhere, you need to schedule that on some nodes, and then you need to have all of the data orchestration stuff around it to actually build this. And the model factory has pieces for all of this. Right? We have a world-class scheduler to actually schedule jobs with priority queues now, which is amazing. We have a great inference code base that lets you do inference across all manner of models. We have checkpoint loading and storing that's incredibly efficient. And all of it just slots together. And the best bit about synthetic data is that once you have it, you can use it to improve all the other steps. So when we're actually doing pre-training on this huge amount of synthetic data that we've generated, it feeds into better models in the future. Yeah. Which then means that when we want to do other stuff later, we've got these great models.
And it's the components themselves that, I've seen this, someone comes in and they might not be from a, strong experience synthetic data background, and they come in and they look at one of these assets, and all of a sudden they see, hey, this is a full end-to-end, multi-model, multi-agent, synthetic data pipeline, and they just fork the code, right? You go in the factory, click on the asset, see the code, make a fork of it, and all of a sudden they are off doing crazy synthetic data experiments, because then really it's just more like your imagination that is the bottleneck, and compute, as always.
Of course.
Those are the two. My favorite thing about Poolside is that we've really obsessed over how quickly can we allow someone to go from idea to results and just make it entirely seamless, right? Like the automatic evaluation that's happening on checkpoints throughout training, for instance, in the factory is a part of that.
And it really decouples the hours that our researchers are awake from the hours that we're actually making useful progress. Most of our team's in Europe. So that would mean that actually we're only working, say, 12 hours out of 24. But when you can run experiments all the time, it doesn't matter what day it is, it doesn't matter what hour it is, we're making some useful progress towards our goals.
Yeah, and we see it now, right? Like a bigger part of our team is now also on the East Coast. It's kind of spread out between the US and Europe, and with that, we're kind of having these overlaps that are happening.
It also makes handoff very easy as well. If I start an experiment in the morning and then it's the end of my day and it's still not done for whatever reason, I can just send someone a message and they can take over monitoring it and making sure that it's all good.
And that no one is babysitting runs.
Well, that's the most important thing.
That is probably the most important thing. I don't remember the last time someone was really truly babysitting a run at 2 a.m. I remember those days from over a year ago. Pretty glad we're not there anymore.
Yeah, it's been a huge quality of life improvement. In fact, I bet if you plotted the number of incident pings that we got in our incident channel over the last year and a bit, they're probably at an all-time low by quite some way now.
No, definitely.
We've made huge changes.